Okay. For this next one, you guys are doing a mini challenge for this one. I'm giving you guys just a little bit of code. You guys should be at this point able to pull together enough to create a game. The game that we are doing, and I'm just going to give you a little example for this one. This one's a light switch game. So, what is a light switch game? Light switch game is where you end up having, like buttons. You have like six buttons, and when you have them all on, the game is won. When you turn on some of them, other ones, not the ones that you clicked, shut off. So they don't all turn on only themselves, they don't all shut off only themselves, but they have a pattern. Like if I had six buttons, one, two, three, four, five, six, and I turned on button one, it might switch button one on, and button uh, three and six would flip them on if they're on, or if they're off, and off if they're on. So it'll just reverse whatever there was. So that's pretty much how the game goes. But let's think about um, what that means for each of these pieces. Okay, obviously we're going to have to test to make sure that all of the lights are on for a game to be won. And that's when, you would check that during the draw every single frame to see if all the lights are on. If all of them are on, then we can display the text and we can, count how many clicks they took or whatever we're going to do to add to our game. Okay. This game, you guys can customize it quite a bit on how you guys are showing win and lose conditions. The game could choose to not have a lose condition. They're just continually trying until they win. You could have it where you have a certain number of turns or clicks to be able to do that, or button clicks instead of just clicks to test to see if someone is winning. So let's kind of look at uh, creating an object. Okay, so I'm going to create a new one um, to draw this. So ultimately, we need to have create a light switch. Okay, we're going to have to, if we sit down and really think about one of these, then it won't be so difficult for us to create the other ones. And then we just really got to build in a sequence. Okay, so that means that when we turn one on, it has to reverse a couple other switches, and we have to build that into all the switches so that we can actually have a sequence to win the game. Okay, the sequence needs to be complex enough to make it so it's not too easy and not too difficult for a person to play. Okay, and I'm going to be the judge of that to decide if it's too easy or too difficult. Okay, usually I would say though on your lights, if one light is controlling at least three other lights, you have sufficient complexity enough to be able to build that out. Okay. All right. So we need to create a light switch. What do we need? We need to have it have two states, which would be off and on, which would be the same as saying false and true. So that would probably be better for Boolean. We need to have it have a position that we put it on our screen. On the screen, needs to check if clicked within the boundaries of the button. Okay, and we've previously done that as a walkthrough, testing that it's greater than the smallest x and less than the largest x, and the same thing for the y. We've already done that in Unit 5, so you guys can look at that code to try to apply that. So it needs to check if clicked within the boundaries of the button. If clicked, state becomes true and switch visually turns on. Okay, so I mean, that's not real complex. I don't really need to have a width and a height on there. I do need to have some type of display. Let's see. Let's just call it switch one. All right, so our switch one needs to have, we already identified, needs to have an X. So I don't know, let's just do 50-50, an X and a Y. We need to have if it's on or off. I could just call it on and then say false to start off. So once we turn it on, then it changes the color. Let's have it have a off color. And I'm going to just make mine black right now. And then let's say that we have, oops, it's got to be a comma between attributes, an on color. And I want some type of yellow. There we go. There's my color. Okay. So there is my switch for it being on or off, my X and Y position. I have an off color. I have an on color. And let's see. What else do I want? Okay. Let's do a display. So we want a display function. This display function needs to check if it's on or off. So if this dot on, if that's true, then my fill is going to be this dot on color. Okay. If this dot on is not on, or if that's false, if it is false, so that would be else. Fill would be this dot off color. That makes it pretty clear. Okay, I gotta make sure that I can understand my own logic. So if I'm turning it on, if this is true, then this resolves to true, so this is my color. Okay, if it's not, then this is my color, it's the off color. So now I am doing just some rectangle at this dot x, this dot y. Let's give it a size of 100 and 100. Okay. Now we can display. So this would be switch one dot display. There we go. If I switch this to true, so I have to always be looking for a way to test to see if this is working. So we need to test this. That's working. Now what else do I want? I don't want a stroke on this. No stroke. I don't know if it's false. Okay, so that is one switch. Okay, and having this right here, then I could say switch one dot on is false, switch one dot on is true. I could, access it some other way. So then I could check the boundaries of the shape. I could maybe do it in here. So I have to have some way where I'm clicking in here to check the boundaries. Now I would say that if we use it in terms of X and Y, and this is actually where width and height would be useful, because then if I move a different shape or resize, everything would still work. Let's do the width. Okay, so then I can switch these. This dot width and this dot height. Okay. All right, so basically the same. Now I could, I'm going to do it two ways. There's a number of ways that you guys could do this. Let's say that I had a mouse pressed. If the mouse is pressed, I want to check. So I could have each one of these, switch one dot check boundaries is what I wanted to check. So let's create that function. So switch one, check boundaries. I want to check the mouse X and the mouse Y position. So if and this may cause problems, but we can look at it. So if mouse X is greater than this dot X and mouse X is less than this dot X plus this dot width. Okay, because I want the left edge and the right edge, and I want the top and the bottom edge. Mouse Y is greater than this dot Y, and mouse Y is less than this dot Y plus this dot height. Okay, if we got into there, then this dot on equals true. Okay. Once we click it, it's on. Let's check it again. If I'm clicking anywhere. So this works, but there is actually a huge bug in here. I could do the else. If I did it this way, this dot on equals false. And I think about it. So this is not firing. Once I click here, it's on. But see how it's not shutting off unless I'm clicking. So I don't actually want it like this. I want, if I'm clicking in there, I just want to reverse what it is. So instead of thinking of it in terms of true and false, I want to reverse whatever it previously was. So that means I'm going to use the not function. So this dot on is going to be stored as not this dot on. Now, if I click it, it will do it. And then if I'm clicking off of it, it's not doing anything. But once I click in the bounds, it is choosing to turn it on and off. Now the question is, if that would still work if I have more than one switch. Because I am choosing to display, and then here I'm choosing to check the boundaries. Okay, so if I had another one, a switch 2, and I was checking the boundaries also, I don't want it to shut off something when I'm clicking here unless that's what I intend to happen. Okay, so this looks good. Now, what I ultimately want to happen if I am clicking on this, I may end up having, is a hint, I might do something like this. Switch 2 dot on equals switch 2 dot on. This turns, flips this switch and this flips switch to switch. Okay, so this is a way that you can control keeping everything encapsulated as an object. In this check boundaries, if we're clicking in there and that's turning it on, okay, if you're clicking in there, it should then also flip these other ones on or off. Okay, now that's airing out because I don't have a switch to right now. But that's the idea. You'd have 6 of these buttons, and then you need to build some type of sequence. Now, what else would you have to do? You'd have to display all these switches. Have to display all the switches. You're going to have to show some way that the player has winning or losing. So you're going to have to show, win conditions. Okay, this is very common in the game. How could we do this? We could just display text, which means that we're going to have to try to check. We got to, build a conditional to check if all of the switches are on or true. If that exists, then we have a win condition. We have won. If they're not, then we need to shut them off. But this also means that I could have some type of button. And we have done it where we've actually created a button. We've walked through that. Or we could actually, build a reset button. And if they click on the reset button resets all of the switches. Okay. So there's a couple ways that you could do that using this same idea. We check the boundaries of that reset button, and all of the switches, instead of being switched to the opposite, all of the switches would become false. Okay, which would mean that you're shutting them all off if you just needed to start the sequence again to try to test. Okay, so this is just a very simple walkthrough on how to do the buttons. You now have an understanding of how to do one button. You are taking that and you are building a game off of it to have a total of 6 buttons, an actual win condition. You need to be able to win, and it can't be super simple. You cannot just turn all 6 of the buttons on. You have to have some kind of sequence to get there. You have to make sure that you are letting me know what the sequence is. At the very top on line 1, you will tell me what the sequence is for your buttons. So if you are counting, you have 3 buttons on the top row and 3 buttons in the bottom row. It's counting from left to right, top to bottom. So that'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You have 2 columns, and each column has 3 buttons vertically. Then you're still counting from left to right, top to bottom. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you would give me that sequence like 3, 6, 2, 1 to win the game. Okay. I will also look for different sequences. I need to see that it is a sufficiently complex enough game that it is a little bit difficult to try to just randomly click buttons to win. Okay. Good luck. Have fun.